Hi there, this is Dr. Ma'in Hasib with lesson 2 on spills in clinical laboratories and how to manage them. If you recall, in lesson 1, I gave you a brief introduction about the subject. We talked about spills type based on size, spill treatment method kits, and what to do when a spill accident happens. In lesson 2, we'll continue with the subject, and we'll talk about how do you clean spills and in general, and then I will give you specific spill situations and how to deal with them. We said there are two major types of spills based on size and danger: minor spill and a major spill. These are general guidelines for minor liquid chemical spills. Isolate the spill area, alert others in the affected area, determine identity of the spilled material, consult the SDS to know how to deal with it, put on appropriate PPEs like gloves, goggles, lab coats if you're not wearing one. As applicable, confine the spill to a limited area by using the appropriate and compatible absorbent spill material, working from outside the edge inward, from outside to the inward, okay, by using either neutralizer, disinfectant, or absorbent. In general, for acid, use sodium bicarbonate or acid spill kit. For base, use sodium bisulfate or citric acid or base spill kit. Then completely clean the area where the spill occurred. Place the absorbent spill material and PPEs used in a bag. Dispose as hazard material. If a small amount of broken glass is involved, pick it up with tongs, forceps, or dustpan. Place in a sharp container. Wash arms, hands, and face with soap and water. Report incident to your supervisor or safety officer and/or quality department via EVOR or consult with your policies in the lab or in the hospital. General guidelines for minor dry simple spill. If not water reactive, dampen to prevent airborne dust. Control water reaction dust by carefully brushing it into a dustpan. Keep dust generation down to prevent creating inhalation hazard. Dispose in a compatible waste container. Notes regarding how to deal with the spill. Though a minor spill can be cleaned by a laboratory personnel, attempted only if it is safe to do so and you are trained to do so. If not sure on how to handle the chemical spill, refer to safety data sheets and appropriate cleanup guideline for chemical spill. Be aware of inhalation hazard. Avoid breathing vapor from the spill. Prevent spilled chemicals from going down drain to avoid contaminating the environment. Clean any equipment as close to the site as possible without spreading the materials around. Ventilate the area through before personnel re-enter. Minor spills do not require code orange or brown. General guidelines for major spills: clean the area, alert people in the area of the spill to evacuate, avoid breathing vapors from spill, do not attempt to clean up a major spill, leave it to the expert. Initiate a code orange or brown, or use the code that you use in your institution. Quickly assess whether any injured or contaminated people. If safe to do so, relocate them to an outside area of the spill for further evaluation by a doctor. Secure the area, close the room and lock it. Otherwise, secure the laboratory and prevent entry if needed. Attend to injured, contaminated people, remove or contaminated clothing or shoes, etc. Use an emergency shower if one is nearby, or flush contaminated skin with lukewarm water and wash with mild soap. Seek immediate medical attention for injured, contaminated people. Stay out of the spill area until the hazard released has been characterized and controlled. Report incident to your supervisor, safety officer, or the quality department via EOVR and or concerned department or individuals, or follow your institution policy regarding that. Some notes regarding the large spill. If a spilled material is flammable and or has caused a fire, if possible and safe to do so, remove or turn off the ignition and or heat source. Shut off electrical power to the laboratory. Evacuate the area immediately and shut the laboratory door and windows if possible. Initiate code red also. I have a video for you here on cleaning a minor chemical spill if you like to watch it.
Not much happening there.
Not much at all. 40 years?
Again, 40 years.
Really?
Yep. 1974.
Paper had been covered
40 years ago.
Paper had been covered pretty good. Come out like that.
Were you? It's still as clear as day. Wow. It looks like brand new. What color is that grass? I thought we would. What color is that grass? Green.
Still a lot of color.
Yeah.
Half an hour. Looks like you could read it today. I'm surprised.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Because I mean, paper. Right? Paper breaks down when it's grass. Grass breaks down.
I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I would never have guessed any of it. That would still be there. You look at these from the bottom of a landfill site and the fresh grass is absolutely amazing. You would never get that in our green carts, in our organic bins. That's truly amazing. And a good lesson for all of us as to why we use our organic carts. Wow.
Next, I'm going to talk about special situation and how to deal with them. This situation is going to just be for the things that I'm going to be talking about. And in general, they cannot be used for something else. So, chemical spills on the body or the skin or clothing. Immediately flood exposed area with running water for at least 15 minutes. Initiate code orange or brown. Remove contaminated clothing, shoes, and jewelry. Seek medical attention as needed. Report incident to supervisor and quality officer or the safety officer via EOVR, or follow your institution policy. Chemical splashes to the eye. If it happens, immediately go to the eye wash station and flush eyes with water for at least 15 minutes. Forcibly hold the lid open to allow water to reach all surfaces of the eye and eyelids, like in this picture. Remove contact lenses if possible and applicable. Seek immediate medical attention. Report to your supervisor, safety officer, and quality department via EVR or follow your institution policy. General guidelines for cleaning radiation spill if it happens. Clean only if the spill is manageable and can be cleaned up as non-emergency. Alert people in the spill area. Monitor the area for contaminating using a survey meter. And if you don't have one, you can call radiation to bring their own. Consider people in area contaminated until monitoring proof otherwise. Restrict their movement to prevent the spill from spreading beyond its area. Decontaminate area with paper towel wetted with soapy water, or use a radioactive spill emergency response kit if you have one. Repeat cleaning up until contamination is no longer detected by using the survey meter or reduced to the minimum level that is permitted for the area. Treat all material used in the decontamination process as radioactive waste. Monitor all involved people, in this village or contamination area. Report result in your survey log. Report incident to your supervisor, radiation safety officer if you have one, and quality department via EOVR or follow your institution policy. If you get radiation spill on the body, remove contaminated clothing, rinse exposed area through with water, dispose as radioactive waste. Monitor all involved people, to make sure they do not exceed the permitted levels. Obtain medical attention as required and report the incidents as usual to your supervisor, radiation safety officer, and quality department via EOVR. If you have a mercury spill or a broken mercury thermometer, alert the people in the immediate area of the spill, evacuate if needed. Isolate the area and do not let people walk through the contaminated zone till the cleanup activities are completed. It is suggested to have 2 people to clean up the spill. Put on appropriate PPEs. Use mercury commercial spill kit if available, or use a pipette or a droplet to pick up the mercury droplets. Most small mercury spills can be placed in an airtight container labeled with the content and volume information. Large volume liquid mercury spill should be vacuumed by a special mercury vacuum if available to assure complete cleanup. If not, initiate code orange or brown. Place the spill material in secondary container labeled as above to be picked up by the contractor. Dispose of contaminated PPEs and contaminated clothes as hazard material. Again, report the incident to supervisor, safety officer, and quality department via EOVR. Notes regarding the mercury spill. Mercury and its vapor are toxic. Mercury can condense into cool surface, making cleanup difficult. Do not use a commercial or domestic vacuum cleaner, as this will contaminate the vacuum and spread mercury vapor. If commercial mercury spill kit is not available, you can use scrubber, wet paper towel to consolidate and collect droplets. If you have a formaldehyde spill, cordon off, ventilate, and evacuate the area till the spill is completely cleaned. Wear appropriate PPE. Sprinkle spill area with formaldehyde absorbent, such as sodium bisulfite, or use appropriate spill material, such as formaldehyde volumizers. Scoop absorbent material into an airtight container for disposal. If area is still wet with spilled material, repeat steps above. After drying, clean area with soap and water. Collect, store, and dispose of all spilled material as hazard material to be picked up by the contractor. If all clear, staff may re-enter the area and resume normal activities. Report incident to your supervisor, safety officer, and quality department via EVR. This is an example of a formaldehyde spill kit. Here it is. If you have an infectious biological material spill, whether it's blood, body fluid, liquid waste contaminated with blood or body fluid, okay, the release of spill of biohazard material will require a different response based on the several factors, including the actual agent, the associated risk, the amount of material spilled, type of spill, and location of the spill. The following guidelines are provided to give a quick reference to you to respond to a biohazard spill. Each lab working a biohazard material should have their own specific spill response procedure. Where applicable and appropriate, consult with your supervisor to be sure you have received the specialized training for your area. Biological spills on the body. Remove contaminated clothing and shoes. Wash really well exposed area with soap and water for 5 to 10 minutes. Obtain medical attention as required. Wash hands face before and after cleanup. Dispose of cleanup material as biohazard waste, autoclave before removed from the area. Report incident to your supervisor, safety officer, quality department, or for your laboratory policy or institution policy. I have a video here for you on how to clean up a blood spill, if you like to watch it.
Large spills of blood and other potentially infectious materials occasionally occur in laboratories and are typically cleaned up by laboratory personnel. If you should experience a spill of this type, follow the procedures described in this video. If you are splashed with infectious material during a spill, immediately remove all contaminated clothing and dispose of them as biomedical waste or autoclave them. Inform those in close proximity of the spill to leave the area. And if you need assistance with cleanup, call the Office of Environmental Health and Safety. Keep people out of the area while waiting the 30 minutes it will take for any aerosols to settle. Prepare to clean up the spill by assembling your spill cleanup materials and donning your personal protective equipment. For large spills, you will want eye, nose, and mouth protection, a lab coat, 2 pairs of gloves, and disposable shoe covers. When ready, approach the spill cautiously, laying paper towels or other absorbent materials on the blood-splattered areas. Using tongs, a dustpan, or pieces of cardboard, pick up the sharps and dispose of them in a sharps container. Never use your hands to pick up sharps. Set aside any contaminated equipment for later decontamination. Next, place absorbent materials on top of the spill and add disinfectant, usually a 10:1 dilution of freshly prepared bleach solution, first around the edges and then in the middle of the spill. The disinfectant must remain in contact with the spilled material for at least 15 minutes. While waiting for the disinfectant to do its job, soak some paper towels with disinfectant and clean any visible contamination found around the spill. Always use tongs in case sharps are encountered. After 15 minutes, gather and dispose of the disinfectant-soaked absorbent material in a biomedical waste bag or sharps container. Absorb any residual disinfectant with paper towels and dispose of them after wiping the area to remove any visible contamination. Please note, if this was a high-risk blood spill or a spill of an infectious agent, the absorbent material would have been placed over the sharps, the disinfectant added, and sharps, together with the absorbent material, disposed of in a sharps container. This procedure decreases the risk of handling sharps prior to disinfection. Once the area has been cleaned of all visible contamination, spray the area with disinfectant and allow it to air dry. When finished, carefully remove your personal protective equipment by removing your shoe covers first, followed by your outer gloves aseptically, sleeves if worn, lab coat, inner gloves, and face protection. Of course, you should always wash your hands thoroughly after removing your personal protective equipment. And don't forget to inform others that they can return to work now that the spill has been safely cleaned up.
Next, we're going to talk about general guidelines for cleaning a biological spills inside a safety hood. Keep cleanup material inside the safety hood. Leave safety hood running to allow time for aerosols to settle. Remove contaminated BBEs, dispose in a biohazard waste container, and put on new BBEs. Large volume of liquid should be covered with absorbent material or paper towels. Then disinfect should be poured over the spill. Disinfectant should be poured over the spill. Allow the disinfectant, like 10% bleach, a minimum of 20 minutes of contact time. Work cautionally and thoroughly, taking care not to spread the spill area and not to disturb the air at the face of the biosafety cabinet. Use paper towel and disinfectant solution, 10% bleach solution, to spray, wipe cabinet walls, work surfaces, and equipment located in the cabinet. Dispose of spill cleanup material in a biohazard waste container to be autoclaved. Remove BBEs and wash hands with soap and water. Report incident to your supervisor, safety officer, and or quality department. All follow your laboratory policies and procedures. What about if you have a spill outside the safety cabinet? Gloves, eye protection, and disposable apron and disposable elastic over shoes, if needed, should be worn. Staff, patient, and visitor must be kept away from the spillage area if possible, and you need to put a warning sign posted. The spill may be covered with paper towel, absorbent mats, or 10% bleach solution as needed. Wipe down the spilled material. The area should be washed with water and detergent and allowed to dry. Paper towels, gloves, disposable over shoes, and any contaminated clothing should be placed in a biohazard waste container to be autoclaved. Hands should be thoroughly washed, and if clothes were contaminated, they should be changed prior to returning to regular working activities. Report incident to your supervisor, safety officer at the quality department, or follow your Laboratories policy. Notes regarding the spills inside or outside the safety cabinet. A normal mop and bucket should not be used for blood spillage till area is completely decontaminated. A spill or release inside a biosafety cabinet does not pose a risk to others in the lab or to the environment. The safety cabinet functions to contain the spill and protect people in the lab from exposure to the agent. A primary concern with a release or spill inside a safety cabinet is to decontaminate material inside the cabinet, including the person's hands and arms, any equipment located in the safety cabinet, and the surface of the safety cabinet itself. Reusable material should be wiped down and either autoclaved or thoroughly chemically disinfected prior to use. If a small amount of broken glass is present, first treat the spillage with 10% bleach. Then carefully remove the piece of glass with disposable forceps and put it in a sharp bin before wiping up as above. I have a movie here for you, or a video for emergency response to accident, fire, and spills, which summarize lots of the things we talked about in the safety lessons or lectures.
This video provides guidance for responding to emergencies in the modern biology laboratory. It is intended to supplement the formal instruction provided in each institution and each laboratory. It is not a substitute for a safety training program or an emergency response plan. In a modern biology laboratory, as in any workplace, there is always the potential for a mishap. How to deal with emergencies is planned for by the institution. It is up to each laboratory worker to be familiar with the appropriate response. Should things go wrong, do you know what to do and how to do it? Dr. Michael Rosbash saw things go very wrong when his wife and colleague knocked over both Bunsen burner and an alcohol dish.
The stool stopped suddenly, and she sort of slipped on the chair, at which point her waist, the edge of the bench, and the alcohol all met simultaneously. The alcohol rolled off the bench, soaked her lab coat and waistline, and then ignited.
Oh my God! Fall over! Fall over!
The next extinguisher that we're going to talk about is the ABC fire extinguisher, or the dry chemical fire extinguisher. It's used on all three classes of fire: the Class A wood paper, the Class B boiling liquid, and the Class C electrical fires. It has a
There's no substitute for preparation and training. Fire extinguishers should only be used by trained personnel, and the fire department should always be called first.
It also leaves a residue on the container, which prevents a flashover from occurring once you've extinguished the fire. Back and forth, back and forth. Now just go to this corner, just keep going back and forth. That's it, back and forth. The way down, just keep going back and forth. There you go. You just watch it as you go.
That was a record sound.
Real good.
In case of a major fire, each laboratory worker should be prepared to take immediate action. Attend to injured persons and remove them from further harm. Alert people in the immediate area to evacuate. Activate the nearest fire alarm or call the emergency response number. Close doors to confine the fire. Evacuate to a safe area or exit the building. Do not use the elevator. Have a person knowledgeable of the incident and laboratory assist the emergency personnel. Do you know how to handle a radiation spill?
Hey, I dropped a hot tip.
Personal safety comes first. The next order of business is to identify the extent of the spill. It's crucial to prevent spilled material from being tracked to other areas. Otherwise, a small cleanup may turn into a big project. That's useful guidance for any kind of spill. Randy knows that this is a minor spill, one that he is trained to clean up himself. But if he had any doubt, he would call the safety office. Of course, all radioactive waste goes into a proper container. A high phosphate solution aids the cleanup. The process must be repeated until no significant radiation is detected. How do you deal with a chemical spill? Cleaning up even a minor chemical spill should be done only by knowledgeable and trained personnel, since an incorrect procedure could cause further harm. A laboratory spill kit should include absorbents, reactants, and protective equipment, as well as instructions. Gretchen uses absorbent pads to soak up the phenol. Repeated washing with detergent solution will assure complete removal. Containment also means providing a good seal for the disposal bag. And don't forget to label it. And what about a biological spill? A biological spill in a BSL-2 facility can be cleaned up by the laboratory worker using precautions. A 1 in 10 dilution of household bleach will disinfect the area. Allow 20 minutes for the bleach to inactivate infectious materials. If there is any evidence of a spill in a centrifuge, close the lid and allow at least 30 minutes for any aerosol to settle. Spray with detergent disinfectant and then wipe down with alcohol. A spill of an airborne pathogen, like Mycobacterium tuberculosis, calls for extreme caution. Hold your breath. Leave the laboratory immediately and remove protective clothing in the anteroom. The laboratory should not be re-entered for at least 30 minutes. Cleanup should be left to safety personnel. Cleanup of any major spill should be left to safety and emergency personnel. But laboratory personnel must take some immediate action. Attend to injured persons and remove them. Alert others in the laboratory to evacuate. If the spill is radioactive, avoid tracking material and monitor all personnel. Call the emergency response number. Close doors. Assist emergency personnel. What do you do if you or someone else is injured?
Chris, help! Chris, I spilled chemicals. Chris, Scott, what happened to you? Take your shirt off. Get it off.
The most important treatment for chemical spills is immediate and extensive rinsing. Contaminated clothing should be removed promptly. Minor cuts and puncture wounds should be washed vigorously for several minutes. In fact, any exposure or potential exposure to foreign agents should be treated with generous rinsing. In case of a radiological spill, wash carefully to avoid spreading to other parts of your body. A biological spill requires vigorous washing with soap and water, and splashes of hazardous materials to the eye call for continuous rinsing for 15 minutes. Cuts and puncture wounds, as well as eye splashes, should be given medical attention, and any exposure or injury should be reported to your supervisor. Solvent fires, the type most likely to be encountered in the laboratory, are best extinguished by smothering, since using water tends to spread the burning solvent. No one intends to have an accident, but everyone can plan their response to one. Know what to do and how to do it. It could save a life someday.
The only kinds of things you can do is make sure that everyone in the lab is conscious of those possibilities which are foreseeable, and in a more general sense, make everyone conscious that they are their brother's keeper. I mean, there's a little, that psychological issue arose to some extent. That is, pay attention to your neighbors. If they're doing something that's unwise, let them know. Keep the corner of your sort of eye open at what's going on, new students, new postdocs, what they're up to, and you know, their health is your health, and vice versa.
All this that I talked about need to be as applicable in your written policy procedures for handling spills of chemicals, blood and body fluid, and that's it for the second lesson in spills in clinical laboratories. For the next subject, please go to still safety in clinical laboratories, the complete guide. We're going to talk about the biosafety cabinets and the fume hoods, and that's in lesson 1. And in lesson 2, we'll talk about some miscellaneous items or subject related to safety in clinical laboratories also. Thank you very much for watching.